constituents of the community of Carver. Since 2009, she has also been a yoga instructor, where she is a certified yoga instructor, and I include that especially because I know it's important to her and she's going to talk about that today. Michelle serves on several boards. She serves as the board of directors of the Mental Health Association, the Orange County Rape Crisis Center, as well as the Dispute Settlement Center. She's also been a speaker at numerous conferences, lectured and presented at state and regional venues. Clearly, Michelle has had a great deal of professional experience, and through her yoga practice has integrated mind and body into a holistic practice perspective. And I'm very pleased to have her here today. Welcome. We get to hear from Michelle Johnson.
Thank you, Dean Richmond, for the introduction. And I'm so honored that the students of the graduating class of 2013 chose me to be their speaker. Thank you very much. In preparing for this speech, I began to think back to my own graduation from the School of Social Work 15 years ago. When I started to look back, I realized I don't remember a thing about the actual graduation ceremony. I don't know who the speaker was. I don't remember what they spoke about. I just remember walking across the stage in tall black patent leather heels to get my degree. I'm hoping I make more of an impression on you than my experience at my own graduation made on me. I'd like to ask you to be really present to this graduation ceremony. I want you to notice where you are, who's around you, who supported you in getting here, who taught you, and who shaped your experience in graduate school. I want you to soak it all in, because it's just a moment, and it will pass quickly. The truth is that I was so happy to be walking across the stage getting my degree that I think it overshadowed any other part of my graduation. Graduate school was no easy task for me. You might look at me now and be surprised that school was hard for me. And you might think I've got it all figured out. But the truth is, I'm letting this path unfold moment by moment, and I'll encourage you all to do the same. So Dean Richmond mentioned that I am a yoga teacher as well as a clinical social worker. And I'm going to talk about Dharma in my talk. And when I first sent Dean Richmond the subject for what I was going to talk about, I was a little worried that he might think I was going to get up here and have you chant Sanskrit or do a down dog. And I reassured him that I was going to talk about Dharma, which means duty in Sanskrit, because I want you all to understand how your social work practice is a journey. It's a practice, it's a path, it's not a destination. I would also like you to know that Dharma, duty, this duty you've chosen as social work, is purposeful, powerful, and meaningful. Dharma derives from an idea that there's a natural order to things, and that justice and social harmony requires humans to live in a manner to keep this natural order. What's really important about Dharma is that it doesn't indicate that we should be status quo, bystanders, or go along to get along. Dharma assumes that justice and social harmony are at the center of the natural order of things. So let's delve into this a little more deeply. I'll offer a story from one of my favorite texts, the Bhagavad Gita. The Gita is often referenced in yoga classes, meditation retreats, yoga retreats, but I'm sure it's never been the focus of a social work graduation speech. The Gita is an ancient text, and it's about 2,500 years old. And the main part of the story is about a warrior, Arjuna, who's reluctant to fight, and his guide, Krishna, who shepherds him through living into his Dharma. The guidance that Krishna provides to Arjuna is very relevant to social work. So I'll just set the context. There's a war going on. Arjuna is reluctant to fight and be a warrior, and Krishna keeps telling Arjuna that being a warrior is his duty, his Dharma. We are all warriors to take on the responsibility of being a social worker. This work is rooted in social justice, and many social workers who came before us have risked their lives, families, and careers fighting for the rights of others. Being a warrior in this context, social work, doesn't mean fighting with the sword, but it means advocating for your clients, communities, the world, and advocating for equality and fairness. Warriors know how to act with grace and strength and unwavering commitment. Your Dharma is being a social worker, in whatever way you want to actualize this role. Remember to stay anchored to your Dharma. Many people are dependent on you. From my own experience, I remember being in school when people advised me to not take social work home with me, meaning, don't take your client stories home with you. Don't take their traumas home with you. I do think it's important to balance this work with self-care, so we can keep on doing the work, and also understand the impact that this work has on us. I've embraced social work as my Dharma, which means everywhere I work, and in all the ways I work as a social worker, a yoga teacher, an elected official, an anti-racist practitioner and organizer, and an activist. Social work is at the center of who I am. I think it's impossible to separate ourselves from social work and the impact that this work has on us. So back to the story. Remember, there's a war going on. Krishna goes on to remind Arjuna that on this path, no effort is wasted. No gain is ever reversed. On this path, effort never goes to waste, and there is no failure. Social work is really trying. It's challenging. It's hard. And sometimes we don't know if the work we're doing has an impact. Often we don't see the return of our work. And I hope that you went into social work because you believe that you have something to offer to this field. Remember why you chose social work, and stay true to the values of our profession as you're doing your work. On the days where you think about leaving social work, remember the reason you chose it, and this will keep you in the practice. There are no failures, there's just a lot of practice. I was working at East Chapel Hill High, which was my first job out of graduate school. I was the family specialist. And after about a couple of weeks of school, I had to go do a home visit for a student who wasn't coming to school. And the student was 14 years old. And I went to her home, and I met her daughter, and I met her mom. I talked to her mom about her not coming to school, and I talked to the student, and the student said it was really hard to find childcare and to stay focused on schoolwork. So I left their home, and as I was leaving, this 14-year-old came outside with her daughter, and her mom came outside. And I was devastated. They were waving me on, and it hit me. 3 generations of poverty, women of color in a system that does not want them to survive, and a teen mom. In my devastation, which let's be clear was my own, it is not the way that the student framed her experience at all. I had a moment of crisis, and I felt like this job of being a school social worker was going to be an uphill battle. I managed to get myself together, and I showed up for work the next day. And while the student continued to miss school, and finally she dropped out, she showed up in my life several times since I left that job at East Chapel Hill High. In fact, about 3 months ago, I was coming out of muscle pump class at the gym, and she was standing there, and she looked great. She'd gotten her GED, she's working, and she has 2 more children, and she seemed happy. There will be times when someone or something steers you away from your Dharma, your duty. There will be times when a client, a community member, a social change agent, or a boss will make you feel like how you're doing your work isn't good enough. I worked at a nonprofit in a really high-pressure situation, in a pretty oppressive situation. My experience of oppression is people's ability to define reality for me, or for folks who have less power than them. I was working to support survivors of sexual violence in an environment that clearly didn't act as if it supported advocates or survivors. I questioned my knowledge, and while this is how oppression works, this is what it's intended to do, to make me feel like I'm the incompetent one. I thought, how can we successfully fulfill our mission of supporting survivors and educating the community about sexual violence when there's an array of oppression happening in our organization? Now, I'm not naive. I understand that nonprofits are a reflection of culture, and that they are not immune to the ways that oppression operates institutionally and culturally. Working in this organization just made me more convicted in my principles and beliefs. In the Gita, Krishna guides Arjuna to perform work in this world, and to let go of selfish attachments. To endure oppression, to support survivors of sexual violence, was the work I had to perform in that organization. It was the work I had to do in the moment. And once I let go of the struggle of wanting the organization to operate in a different way, once I remembered my values and acted accordingly, everything else faded away. The last bit of guidance I would like to offer you from Krishna is to do any actions you must do, since action is better than inaction. When I was in college, I wanted to study abroad. And when I was in graduate school, I also wanted to study abroad. In college, I did not understand the whole process of how students got abroad. I didn't understand the hoops that students had to jump through to leave the country. And in graduate school, which I came to right after undergrad, I was so busy rushing to get out of school that I didn't focus on other opportunities that might be available. So in 2010, I was a little burnt out, and I felt like I needed something different. I often feel that way. It's why I'm involved in lots of different parts of the community. I was teaching yoga, and I saw a 3-minute film about the Africa Yoga Project. You might wonder what yoga has anything to do with Africa, and what any of that has to do with social work. I'm going to explain. In the film that I saw, there were teachers in Kenya using yoga to deal with post-election conflict and violence. These teachers had set up yoga and acrobatic performances in internally displaced camps after the election violence in Kenya of 2007 and 2008. And it hit me. Now is my time to go abroad. I promptly emailed the project coordinator, waited to hear back. I went home and told my partner, Jeff, that we were going to Africa. It really did happen like that. I went through the paperwork, the process, the fundraising, the shots, getting airfares, and in January of 2012, my partner and I traveled to Kenya into the project. And we had to pay our way to Kenya. I wasn't sure what it would be like or what I would be doing, but I went because I had to act. Action is better than inaction. It turns out that I totally fell in love with Kenya. The Africa Yoga Project is a community-based organization in Kenya that started after the election violence, and it trains teachers who are from the slums to teach yoga. Then these teachers go back to their communities in the slums and have to teach 5 classes a week for free, and they get paid a living wage, which is about $100 a month. It's the most amazing work I've ever been involved in, and you better believe social work has come in handy. During my first trip, I worked with teachers to process their trauma from the election violence. They had all experienced collective violence but hadn't talked about it. I co-led groups for them to share about their experiences and the impact physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. They opened up, and so did I. We traveled back to Kenya in 2013, in the middle of campaign season. There was another election in Kenya this past March. This year I worked with the teachers, and they talked about their fears about the upcoming election. They came up with coping skills and support systems and worked on an action plan to promote peace and to really be ambassadors for peace. As far as we know, there was minimal violence in this election. Since falling in love with Kenya, I made a lifetime commitment for myself and my partner, once again, to raise $100,000 in our lifetime to donate to this project. We've raised a little over $24,000 in 2 years. We did it by asking folks to support us and to support something that we love. Krishna says to Arjuna, do any actions you must do, since action is better than inaction. Even the existence of your body depends on necessary actions. Arjuna, you are obliged to act. Now, if you've zoned me out because you're waiting to cross the stage, come back. Really listen to this because it's powerful. Do any actions you must do, since action is better than inaction. Even the existence of your body depends on necessary actions. Social work class of 2013, you are obliged to act. Your time in social work school has prepared you for some things, not all. And as you graduate and move forward and move on, remember all the people who are responsible for you being here, and thank them. Remember that you don't have to know everything. Remember what you know for sure, and remember that there's still a lot to learn. This is the beauty of the path. Remember what Marianne Williamson said, you are powerful beyond measure. Remember what JFK offered, if not now, when? Remember in the words of Martin Luther King Jr., that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Remember the powerful words of Audre Lorde. When we speak, we are afraid our words will not be heard or welcomed. But when we are silent, we are still afraid, so it is better to speak. Remember that there is a natural order to things, and social justice and social harmony are at the heart of this natural order. Remember Ubuntu. I am what I am because of all of what we are. And live into your Dharma. And I'll just end this like I end every yoga class. May you be safe, may you be happy, may you be free. May you understand that your liberation is connected to all of the people in this room and all of the people in the world and universe. May all beings everywhere be safe, happy, and free. May our world be just. May we all find peace. Congratulations, class of 2013. I'm proud to be in the company of you as social workers and my newest colleagues. Thank you so much for choosing me, and have a